It's been a couple of weeks since the last video was made, and the weather really hasn't been cooperating all that well. We've gotten some sap, a little bit here and there, but not as much as we have in the past. But today, or this evening I should say, it's going to be dark here soon. We're going to pull some sap that we've collected probably over the last day or so. And then I'll show you a little bit of the boiling process as well. So let's go see what kind of sap we got. Alright, so we're over here by the one of the best producing trees I got. This is quite a beast of a tree, as you can see. I think in the last video I pointed out the black bark, which is an indication that this thing really leaks sap, and it does. So we're going to check this bucket, and I'll just pour it out so you can see about how much I've gotten. I keep a rock on here to keep the bucket from blowing over in the wind. I'd say that this bucket is about 2/3 full. This is from a couple of days. Yeah, so what I do is I just go around from tree to tree with the bucket and fill it up. Take the bucket down to the sugar shack, come out with another bucket, and just keep making my rounds until I get it all. Alright, so we got done collecting the sap for the day, and I say we got about 22 gallons maybe. And you can come up here and take a look at our take for the day. We got about 18 taps running right now, which isn't very much. So I'm going to show you the process of what I do to get this going in the evaporator. So I have one of these filters that you can buy. What I do is I like to run the sap through a filter just to get all the bugs and any debris in there out. A lot of times, not today, but a lot of times there'll be ants in there. The ants love the sweet sap. So I just set this up here, and I'll go with my smaller bucket, and I just run it through. There's also some ice buildup, and that'll get the ice out. Any kind of ice that we have, it's going to be less water that we have to evaporate. The sap, when it freezes, the ice doesn't actually contain any of the concentrated sugar. Now, obviously, if the whole thing had froze, then it would, but any top layer ice, we can just throw that out, and that's less ice that we have to worry about evaporating. So then what I do is I pour it into the this little thing up here, which basically just holds the sap. And what it does is it runs down through this tube into this little man, I can't think of what any of the stuff is called off the top of my head. But what it does is it regulates the flow. So it only allows up to 2 inches of sap to go into the actual pan where I do the boiling. And 2 inches of sap is apparently the optimal depth that you want to keep sap at when you're boiling. Apparently you'll get the most efficient evaporation by keeping it at 2 inches. And so this just kind of automates that process for me, so I don't have to sit here and feed the sap in myself. I can just keep this thing filled up, and this will take care of keeping it at 2 inches depth. So All right, we'll fire up the evaporator here. Okay, so let's get the evaporator going. Usually what I do when everything cools down on a day before I actually evaporate, I just get this thing all prepped up, and I got it stuffed full of wood. It's wood scraps. As you might know if you've been to the website, one of the other things that I do is woodworking. I create all kinds of things, rustic decor and stuff like that. So what's great about that is I get all kinds of scraps that just aren't really useful for any of the projects. So it becomes fuel for the fire. And I also do wood milling and stuff. So any of the pieces of wood, any of the cutoffs from the logs, I just cut them into small pieces, and it's used for fuel as well. So typically what I do is I don't mess around with newspaper and lighter fluid and all that. I discovered that just using a propane torch here really gets the fire going. So I guess it would help if I turn the gas on. Okay, so just hold that in there for a while and let it get hot. In previous years I used to mess with cardboard, newspaper, and lighter fluid, and I mean sometimes I'd be out here for half an hour trying to get the fire going, and this just really makes it easy to use a torch. Keep it in there for a little while, make sure everything's really good and hot. Pretty much what I'm burning in here is some sugar maple, white pine, a lot of tulip poplar, nice and dry. So yeah, it really creates a really hot fire. So that's going to take that'll probably take. So yeah, I'm using the Smoky Lake Maple Products Dauntless Evaporator. In previous seasons I had just used a makeshift boiler that I had built myself. Just kind of threw a bunch of stuff together, and it was very inefficient. And I would spend from dawn till midnight or later just trying to boil down, say, 70 gallons of sap. And with this setup, it's so much more efficient. Everything about it just makes it easier. I decided last year that I would invest in one of these units, just because I figured it would pay for itself over the years. It's not a super. It's not super expensive, but it's not cheap either. Like I said, it'll take several years before it pays for itself. But it's going to it'll be definitely worth it in the long run. So yeah, we'll just let that fire heat up, and it won't be long, and the sap I put in there will start steaming, and it'll be a roaring fire here soon. I do have to open up my roof so I can let the steam out. Yeah, so it's been like only maybe 3 minutes since I lit this thing, and as hopefully you can see, there's actually steam already coming up. The fire is roaring pretty good. One thing I want to say that I really like about this Dauntless is, as you can see, it's lit down here, so the air intake is underneath, so the air gets sucked underneath the firewood, comes up, and then goes in and over and then out. That really makes the burning efficient, in my opinion. I don't get a whole lot of ash. I can burn this for hours, and I just get a tiny little bit of ash. As you can see, there's some ash in here. I don't know if you can see it very well. That's from several days of burning. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's getting to the point where it's starting to boil now, and you can hear it. But like I said, it's like been probably 5 minutes at this point since I first lit this thing up, and it's already heated this up to a point where it's steaming, and this sap was so cold that it had ice in it. So yeah, this thing's awesome. So you can hear the, and I finally remember what this thing is called. It's a float box. So you can see and hear the water dripping into the float box here, which means that the water level in here is dropping from evaporation. So that's kind of giving you an indication of just how quickly the water is evaporating out of the sap. Alright, so this is one of my favorite parts of the sugar shack, and evaporating the maple syrup or maple sap. I don't know if you can see me, but yeah, there's a lot of steam, and you can smell the sugar a little bit. Obviously, when it gets more condensed, and I keep adding more and more to it, you're gonna smell it more. But yeah, I love the steam. I feel like I'm in a steam house, and it's warm. Yeah, I mean, it's cold outside too, so it feels great in here.